Getting a bit hot, 1 second. Mm-hmm. Check my BPM. My apologies for that, Mukhli. My mum walked up and was talking to me. My the Mike Mukhli, it's your favorite Jew, Olive. And today we're going to be continuing with our reading of the Natyaveda or the Natya Shastra. Yesterday we did chapter 4 and it was quite a mouthful, so we ended up only doing chapter 4. Today we're going on with chapter 5. I'm hoping, I don't know how long this is going to take. There's quite a few chapters in this one, in this text. I didn't expect it to be so many, but that's fine with me. I hope you're all enjoying it too. Anyway, so let's now also, hello Queen, how are you? Oh shit, right. I should take that off, shouldn't I? It's been a few days, hasn't it? My apologies, Mohili. I forgot that I have Happy Halloween in my title. Because I don't normally celebrate Halloween, so I didn't expect myself to put anything there. Did that save? I don't think it did. It didn't. Okay, 1 second. Radio. Let us now begin with Chapter 5, the preliminaries of a play, or the Pulavaranga. On hearing the words of Bharata, who continued the topic of drama, the sages were pleased in mind and said, "We have heard from you about the origin of drama and the Jajara, as well as the means of stopping obstacles and the worship of gods. Having grasped the meanings, we would like to know in detail, exhaustively, O the very splendid one, about the preliminaries and all the characteristics. It behoves you, O Brahma, to explain everything for our understanding." The same properly. 1 second, the mic's a bit off. Bharata answers. Hearing these words of the sages, Bharata spoke about the rules of preliminaries. O the blessed ones, listen to me. I am speaking about the preliminaries, as well as the Pada Bhaga and the Kalas, and the walking around which relate to them. As it is first performed in the beginning of the stage, it is called the Puraranga. The beginning means Purvam, the stage means Ranga, so it's Purvaranga. Its different parts are to be performed in due order with the playing of drums and stringed instruments, as well as the recitatives Pratyahara, Avatarana, Arambha, Ashravana, Vaktrapani, Parigatana, Samgotana, Margasarita, and Asarita. Of the long, the medium, and the short types are the songs outside the performance of a play to be sung by persons behind the curtain, to the accompaniment of drums and stringed instruments. Then, after removing the curtain, dances and recitals are to be performed with the playing of all musical instruments, and some song of the Madraka class that is to be sung, or one of the Vadamanaka class, along with a class dance suitable to it, should be applied. Then should take place one after another during the preliminaries the following: Uthapana, walking around, benediction, Shuka Pakrita, Rangadvara, Kachari, Mahachari, free men's talk, and laudation. I shall now explain in due order the characteristics of all these which are to be included in the ceremonies of the preliminaries. Pratyahara, arranging the musical instruments, is to be called Pratyahara. The seating of singers is to be called Avantarana. The commencement of vocal exercises for the singers is to be called Arambha. Adjusting the musical instruments for playing them in due order is to be called Ashravana. Rehearsing the different styles of playing musical instruments is to be called Vaktrapani. The string instruments are to be adjusted duly during the Parigatana. The Samgotana is meant for rehearsing the use of different hand poses for indicating time beat. The playing together in harmony with one another of drums and string instruments is to be called Margasharita. The Asharita is meant for practicing the division of kalas, and the application of songs is for singing of the glory of gods. I shall now speak of the Uttapana, or Uthapana, ceremony, which is also styled because from this the reciters of the benedictions start first of all in the stage the performance of the play. Hence Uthapana is considered by some to be the beginning of the performance. The walking around is so styled because the guardian deities of different worlds are praised by the director walking all over the stage. The benediction is so called because it must always include and invoke the blessing of gods, Brahmins, and kings. When an Akshashista Dhruva is composed with meaningless sound, it is called a Suksha Vrishta. It indicates verses for the Jajara. The Rangadhara is so called because from this part commences the performance, which includes the words and gestures. The Chari is also called because it consists of the movements depicting the erotic sentiment, and the Mahachari occur movements delineating the furious sentiment. The conversation of the director, the assistant, and the jester is called the freeman's talk. An appeal of view to success, which is made by the director after suggesting the actions of the play in hand with proper reasoning and arguments, is called the laudation. I shall now describe in detail the Ashravana, which is included in the Bhagavad Gita, and shall speak of its origins as well as its justification. Now in songs in seven form, and in Sitra, and in Dakshina, Margas, together with the Upahanas and the Nirgitas, were started by musical experts like Narada in praise of the gods. All the gods and the Navas in the assembly were made to hear the Nagita performed with proper tempo and time beat. Now on hearing these happy songs praising the gods, the Daityas and Rakshasas were all provoked to jealousy. In these circumstances they pondered over the matter and said to Nava, "We are glad to hear this Nagita in accompaniment with the musical instruments, and the gods were pleased to hear the songs in seven forms about their exploits. But we shall hear the Nagita only, and shall always be pleased with it." Then these Daityas and Rakshasas, pleased with the Nagita, urged for its repeated performance. This enraged the gods, who said to Narada, "These Danavas and Rakshasas are pleased with the Nagita only and do not want anything else. Hence we wish this performance of the Nagita to come to an end. What do you think of this?" Hearing these words of the gods, Narada replied, "Let the Nagita dependent on the music of stringed instruments be not stopped, and this Nagita be combined with the Upahana, and the accompaniment of music of stringed instruments will have seven forms. Enraptured by this Nagita, the Daityas and Rakshasas will not be provoked, and they will not create any obstruction of the performance. This is called the Nagita to satisfy the vanity of the Daityas, while in honor of the gods it is called the Bharagita. It is to be played by experts in the Citravina and Dhatus, containing light and heavy strokes and vanas and alamkaras. It is to be called the Nagita because it is there is sung a combination of sounds carrying no sense, and to satisfy the vanity of the gods it is called the Bharagita. The reason behind the Nagita in its seven forms, as well as the Uthapana and the like, will now be given. The Pratyahara pleases the Rakshas and the Panagas, while the Apsarasas are pleased with the Avatarana. The Gandharvas are pleased when the Aramba is performed, and then the performance of the Ashravanas the Daityas take delight. The Vaktrapani pleases the Danavas, and in the Parigatana the hosts of Rakshasas are again pleased. By the Samgotana, Yakas are satisfied, while in the Margasarita pleases the Yakshas. When songs are sung, the gods enjoy them, and Rudra and his followers is pleased by the performance of the Vardhamana. Similarly, in the performance of the walking around, Lokapalas, the guardians of the worlds, are delighted, and the moon god is pleased with the benediction. During the singing of the Avakrishta, or the Dhruva, Nagas are pleased, while the Shukavakrishta pleases the host of Pitras, or the ancestors. In the Rangavara, Vishnu is pleased, while the Jajara ceremony pleases the leader of the Vignas. On the Chari performed, Uma takes pleasure, while in the performance of the Mahachari, the Bhupis are delighted. So much about worshipping the deities in different parts of the plenaries, beginning with the Pratyahara and ending with the Mahachari. O best of Brahmins, in course of describing the different parts of the plenaries, I have named the gods pleased by them, and mentioned the individual parts of it in which they take delight. The performance of the plenaries, which means worshipping the gods, was praised by them, the gods, and is conducted the duty, fame, and long life. And in the performance of whether with or without songs, is meant for pleasing the Daityas and the Danavas, as well as the gods. I shall tell you afterwards, while discussing the rules of the Dhruvas, the characteristic of functions performances with or without songs, as well as the Vadamas. After performing the songs and the Vadamana, one should sing the Uttapani Dhruva, which has an feet of 11 syllables. The first two, the fourth, the eighth, and the 11th is long. It should be sung in the Katara rasa and should consist of 4 feet and 4 sanapatas, as well as 3 kinds of tempo and 3 caesura. Beside this should consist 4 walking arounds and 3 panis, and should be in the Vishloka meter as well as some kind of tala. The tala in question should consist consecutively of shamya of 2 kalas, tala of 2 kalas, shamya of 1 kala, and the sanapata of 3 kalas. Thus, a sanipata tala of 8 kalas should be observed by experts, and it is said that a walking song is made up of 4 such sanapatas. The first walking around the plenary should be made in slow tempo, and on the termination of the third sanapata, the innate drum should be played. On the termination of the first walking around, the second one having commenced in medium tempo, the director and the 2 assistants should enter the stage. 3 should simultaneously enter the stage with handfuls of flower offerings, but before they should get themselves purified, initiated, and furnished with charms for protection against evil spirits. They should be clad in white. Flowers carried by them should also be white, and they should be looking with their Adbhuta glance, and in the Vaishnava svana, and the sasvara of the body. The 2 assistants should carry a golden pitcher and the jajara. Along with them, by his side, the director should put forward 5 steps. These 5 steps will be for the purpose of worshipping Brahma, and the manner of putting them forward will be described below in detail. They should slowly pace their 2 feet 3 talas apart, then raise them one by one on each side again and put them down the same distance. After going 5 steps in the manner described above, the director and his 2 assistants should perform the Suchi Chari, with the left foot moved first and the right foot afterwards. Then the director should offer flowers to Brahma's circle, which is another name for the center of the stage where the deity is supposed to be present. And afterwards the director should respectively bow to Brahma with the Lalita gesture, and to measure the length of time during the salutation, he should thrice touch the ground with his hand, and his steps should be suitably divided. The second walking around, which begins with the entrance of the director and the end of the salutation to Brahma, and of the uses of gesture related to it, should be performed in medium tempo. Next, during the third walking around, the director should go around to Brahma's circle, perform the achamana, and take up the jajara. The manner of taking it up is as follows. Rising quickly from Brahma's circle, he should perform the suchi chari with his foot, the right foot forward first and the left foot afterwards. And then he should again raise his right foot, which was on the side of, and perform the suchi veda chari, putting forward the foot first and the right foot afterwards. Going around the center of the stage, the director should cowl the person who carries the golden pitcher, and perform the ablution with water from this vessel. He should then perform the achamana and sprinkle himself with water in due order. Thus performing properly the ablution, the director should carefully take up the jajara, the destroyer of obstacles, and this act should be performed along with the beginnings of the last sanipata of this second walking around. The third walking around begins with going around the center of the stage and ending with the taking up of the jajara, and should be performed in a quick tempo. After taking up the jajara to ward off evils, he should mutter some mantras in 8 kalas. He should then perform the suchi chari by putting forward the left foot first and the right foot afterwards, and then move 5 steps forward towards the musical instrument. And then again he should observe the suchi chari by putting forward the left foot first and the right foot afterwards. The fourth walking around, which begins with taking up the jajara and ends with an approach of musical instruments, should be made in a quick tempo. In the Puraranga of the Katarashra type movements of hand and feet will occupy the 16 kalas, and while the beams of the Triyashra type movements will occupy 12 kalas only. The director of the 2 assistants should make 3 salutations by touching the ground with the hand. Before this, they are to sprinkle themselves with water, but in the case of the Triyashra, preliminary such sprinkling has not been prescribed. In this manner, they should perform the Uttafana. Then comes the Parivartani Dhruva, which should be performed in the Katarasa and medium tempo with 8 sanapatas. The Dhruva, which has only the last syllable long in its 4 feet of 11 syllables, is called the Parivartani Dhruva. During the singing of this Dhruva, the director should move leftwards in the Vatrika Maga with graceful steps and accompaniment of instruments. Music should bow to different deities in the directions belonging to them. And during the foot movement mentioned above, each step of the director should consist of 2 kalas, and movements in each direction should consist of 2 sanipatas. You should then observe the Shuchikachari, putting the left foot first and the right foot afterwards, and putting the latter at a distance of 2 talas. In this manner, he should go 5 steps with the Atikranta Chari and bow to different deities in the direction belonging to them. First of all, he should bow to the eastern direction presided over by Shakra. Secondly, he should bow to the southern direction belonging to Yama. Thirdly, he should bow to the western direction ruled by Varuna. Fourthly, he should bow to the northern direction, which Dhanada is the protector, or Kuvera. After bowing to these directions, he should perform the Shuchichari, putting the left foot first and the right foot afterwards, and then begin the walking around. Then, with his face towards the east, the director should bow to Rudra, Brahma, and Upendra, while going forwards 3 steps by masculine, feminine, and neuter feet, one after the other. The right foot is masculine, the left foot is feminine, while the right foot, not so much raised, is called neuter. Isha should be bowed to with the masculine foot, putting foot first, while bowing in Brahman in the neuter foot should be so put forward. The walking around should be finished thus, and then the 4th man should duly enter the stage with flowers in his hand, and should duly offer puja to the jajara, and to all the musical instruments as well as to the director. His foot movement during the puja should be made to accompany the playing of drums, and there should be no song sung then, but only meaningless syllables should be chanted. After the puja of the 4th man should make his exit, and then should be sung an Apakrishta Dhruva in the Katrasa and slow tempo. This Dhruva should be bound heavily. This Dhruva should abound in heavy syllables and depend on the Svayasi Vana, as well as made up of 8 kalas, and its tala should be Avapanika. Apakrishta Dhruva is a song consisting of 4 feet of 10 syllables, of which the 4th, the 5th, and the 7th and the 8th will be short. One moment. I do worry sometimes I'm speaking too fast for it to sound good. Then the director will recite a medium tone, the benediction, which should consist of 8 or 12 feet. These are the specimens of the benediction. It's not too fast? That's good. Salutations to all the gods. Blessed be the twice-born class. Let the king and the cows attain good health by a soma sacrifice. Let there be an advancement of the cause of the Brahmins. Let their enemies be killed, and let the great kings rule this earth together with all the seas. Let the state prosper, and his theatre flourish, and let the producer of the theatrical show attain virtues inspired by Vedic knowledge. Let the playwright attain fame, and let his virtue increase, and by this kind of sacrifice let the gods be always pleased with him. At the recitation of such benedictory poems, the two assistants should loudly and distinctly say, "Let this be so." I didn't mention this, but the reason we're early today is because I noticed that Alex wasn't appearing, and believe it or not, the morning ASMR is actually for Alex to go to bed, and the evening ASMR is for Queen. That's the actual division of the ASMRs. They're for Alex and Queen to go to sleep, because I'm worried about them sometimes. I'm a bit eepy, I might fall asleep soon. That's okay, it's literally to make people go to bed. The benediction should thus be performed duly according to the rules mentioned above, and then should be sung by the Shukla Pakrishta Dhruva, and the verse praying the Jajara. This dhruva should consist of 9 long syllables first, and then 6 short syllables followed by 3 long syllables. After properly performing the Shukla Paksha Dhruva, he, the director, should recite in a loud voice 1 shloka in adoration of the deity, in course of whose worship the dramatic performance is going to be held. Then another shloka paying homage either to the king or to the Brahmins should be sung. After reciting the Jajara shloka, in what is called the Rangadhara, entering the performance, he should again read another shloka in lowering the Jajara. And after the Jajara has been lowered, he should perform a chari, and then 2 assistants should step backwards, and then the Adita Dhruva should be performed with medium tempo, the Katarasa Tala and 4 sanipatas. The Dhruva, which has first, the fifth, the last syllables long, and the remaining syllables short, in all the 12 feet of 12 syllables should be called Adita. I could shout really loud and just wake you up. I won't do that. I did that once to mess with Alex. I shall relate its application according to the procedure adopted by Mahasvara and Uma when performing in the past, with the display of different states and movements. After assuming the Avanhita Svana and placing the left hand first with its palm downwards on the navel and holding the Jajara loosely on his other palm, the director should go 5 steps with his left hand, showing the Pallava gesture, and while going he should cover 1 tala each step and move his limbs gracefully. Afterwards he should perform the Suchichari by putting forward his left foot and on the right foot afterwards. Then the director should recite a shloka with love of it as its subject matter. After reciting this chari shloka and performing the walking around, he should, with his face towards the front, withdraw backwards in steps described before. After placing the Jajara in the hands of the assistant, he should perform the Mahachari in accordance with the rules laid down below. During this chari, the Dhruva song should be of the Katarasa type and in quick tempo, and having 4 sanapatas and 8 kadas. This Dhruva song should be beat of 11 syllables, which the first, 12th, 7th, 10th, and the last are long, and the remaining ones are short. But the ever-pleasing class dance of Hara, after the destruction of the world, which smashed the hills by impact of his feet, and agitated the ocean with all creatures living in it, always give protection. Then he should step towards the drums, and afterwards perform the Stuchichari, followed by the change of the Vikashpa. Afterwards he should move his feet gracefully with quick tempo, and keeping them 3 talas apart, he should go 5 steps there again, and should perform the Suchiveda Chari, and with his left foot forward first and right one afterwards. and with the foot movements described above, he should move backwards with his face towards the front, and again he should go 3 steps forward in a similar manner, and then he should again perform the Suchichari, with his left foot forward first and the right foot afterwards. Then he should recite a couplet calling for the furious sentiment, or bringing his feet together. Then after going 3 steps, he should call the 2 assistants, and on their coming, a Nakotaka Dhruva should be sung. At the time of singing this Dhruva, he should perform the Natyaveda Chari, putting forward his left foot first and his right foot afterwards. Then in the place of a play in verbal style, the 3 men's talk should take place. During this talk, the jester should suddenly come in and deliver discourse consisting mostly of irrelevant words to excite and smile of the director. In this discourse should be brought some controversial topic, and an abrupt remark or an enigmatical utterance of some kind, and the question is, who is there and who is one, leading to the plot of the play. In the 3 men's talk, an assistant talks with the jester, who finds fault with his words, which are however supported by the director. Then the director should put in the laudation and the appeal to the members of the audience and for the success of the performance. The subject of the play should again be mentioned. After putting into practice these rules, all 3 persons, the director and the 2 assistants, should perform the Suchiveta Chari, and they should go out together while performing any chari other than the Avitha one. Thus, O Brahmins, should the performers of the preliminaries of the Katarasa type, I shall not speak of the Traseya type. Its use is similar and its components and parts the same. The only feature that distinguishes from the Katarasa type is its abridged measure of tala. In it, the shamya should consist of 2 talas, and the tala of 1 kala. And again, the shamya is to consist of 1 kala and the sanipata of 2 kalas. And this kind of measure of kala, tala, and tempo should be performed in the Traseya preliminaries, which include Uthapana and other such items. The Dhruva, which has before the 8th, the 10th, and the last syllables long, and in all its 4 feet of 12 syllables, is to be called the Uthapana Pani Dhruva of the Traseya type. The Trayasara preliminaries and expert dancers should be abridged the instrumental music, movements of persons, Dhruva songs, and their tala. The actions and movements of a dancer are to be made of 2 types, elaborated and abridged, according to the instrumental and the vocal musics are such. It is said that each movement of hands and feet should be 2 kalas duration, and in any walking around in the Katarasa preliminaries, the hands and feet should be moved 16 times. On the Trayasara preliminaries, they only move 12 times. Oh, it's Katarasa Asra and Trayasara, which means 4 and 3 Asra. That's interesting. I know it because I'm pretty sure Old Irish is like Kafri and 3. So I would have said Kafri Asra and 3 Asra. But all these matters should be performed in the Trayasara preliminaries according to the measure of Tala, as the master of the art thinks fit. Hence, to avoid repetition, no elaborate direction without the same has been given here. O best of Brahmins thus should perform the pure preliminaries of the Katarasa type and the Triyasara type, which relate to a play depending on the verbal style. So much about the pure preliminaries, Katurasra and Trayasra, which was to describe. I shall now tell you how the producers may turn them to one of the mixed Sitra type. During the Uthapani Dhruva, when the walking ground has been decorated with flowers given by the 4th man, and the stage resounded with the well-measured of loud songs of musical experts, divine dundovis should be played again and again, and the mixed plenaries thus begin. Clusters of white flowers should be scattered all over the stage, and the angaharas should be performed by dancers dressed as goddesses. The class type which has been described above, with its pindis, Rachakas, Angaras, Nyasas, and Apanyasas should be intervene the separate feet of the benedictory poems. This rule should be put into practice by those who would turn pure plenaries into mixed ones. After the pure plenaries have been duly made mixed, all the dancers dressed as goddesses should make their exit. After the exit of all female dancers, the other parts of the plenary should be performed. This is the manner in which the pure plenaries should be changed into mixed ones, but in the plenaries, be they of any type, there should not be too much dance and song. If at the beginning of a performance, song, music, and dance continues for too long a time, they tire out the artists as well as the spectators. Tired persons can either attain or give help in attaining a clear impression of the sentiments and the states. Because of this, the rest of the performance cannot properly excite feelings. After performing the plenaries, be they of the Chaturasra or Trayasra of the pure or mixed type, the director along with the assistants should make their exit from the stage. After the plenaries have been performed in the manner described, the introducer should enter the stage. He should resemble the director in every respect. He should assume the Vaishnava svana and have the sasvava of the body, and upon entering the stage he should observe the foot movements which the director had used. At the entrance of the introducer, the dhruva should be made suitable to the occasion, and it will either be of the Chaturasra or Triyasra and be in medium tempo. He should then perform a chari in praise of the gods and Brahmins, and in the accompaniment with the recitation of slokas containing sweet words and evoking various sentiments and states. After thus pleasing the spectators, he should announce the name of the playwright, and then he is to start the prologue, which relates to proclaiming the theme of the play. Then by mentioning to a god in a divine play, a man in a human play, and a god and a man in a play where gods and men meet, he should proclaim different ways the subject of the play, by various alluding to its opening and seed. After introducing the play, the introducer should go out of the stage and thus perform the plenaries according to the rules. If any producer of the play will perform the plenaries according to the rules laid down, nothing inauspicious will happen to him, and after his death he will reach the heavenly region. On the contrary, whoever produces a play in wilful violation of the rules in this manner will sustain a great loss, and will after his death be reborn as a creature of the lower order. Fire fanned by a strong wind does not burn anything so quickly, as does the wrongly made production. In this manner, the plenaries of two different extents should be performed by the people of Avanti, Panchala, Dakshinyata, and Udra regions. O Brahmins, these are the rules regarding the plenaries. Tell me properly what other rules relating to the Natyaveda should be discussed now. Here ends chapter 5 of Bharata's Natyashastra, which treats the plenaries of the production of the play, and that is chapter 5. You just heard that like 3 times. Now beginning with chapter 6, which is one of the more important parts of this text, called the sentiments or rasa. This is actually why I was reading the Natyashastra beforehand. After hearing about the rules regarding the plenaries, the great sages continued their inquiries and said to Bharata, "Answer 5 of our questions. Explain how the sentiments enumerated by experts in the dramatic art attain their special qualities, and why are the bhavas so-called, and why are they bhavyayanti? Besides these, what are the real meanings of the terms such as digest, memorial verse, and etymology?" At these words of the sages, Bharata continued speaking and mentioned in reply to their questions the distinction between the sentiments and the psychological states. And then he said, "O sages, I shall tell you in detail and in due order the digest, memorial verse, and etymology. I am not able by any means to exhaust all the topics about drama, for knowledge and arts and crafts connected with it are respectively manifold and endless in number. And as it is not possible to treat exhaustively even one of these subjects, which are vast like an ocean, there cannot be any question of mastering them all. Hence, I shall tell you about the digest in sentiments, psychological states, and other such manners, which has its content embodied in a small number of sutras, but which promotes inference in connection with the subject. When subjects are taught in detail and have compressed and brought together in a number of sutras and bhāsyas, these constitute, according to learned, a digest. The digest of the Natyaveda treats the sentiments of the psychological states, the histrionic representations and the practices, the styles, the local usage, success, and notes of the instrumental music, songs, and the stage. When a rule is explained briefly in a sutra with a minimum number of words, it is called a memorial verse, which shows the meaning of the rules clearly. Etymology is the definitive meaning of which arises in the connection of various nouns. It is held by dictionaries, and the rules of grammatical interpretation includes the significance of the root involved as well as the reason for modifying it, and is held by various findings, and its meaning of a noun is established mainly through the consideration of its root, and pratyaya or affix. Over the best of Brahmas, the subject included into the digest which I mentioned earlier will now be discussed in detail with the necessary memorial verse and the etymology connected with them. The eight sentiments recognized in drama are as follows: erotic, comic, pathetic, furious, heroic, terrible, odious, and marvelous. These 8 of the sentiments named by the Duhina. I will now speak of the durable and complementary psychological states and the sattvika ones, The durable psychological state is known as follows: love, mirth, sorrow, anger, energy, terror, disgust, and astonishment. The 33 complementary psychological states are as follows: discouragement, weakness, apprehension, envy, intoxication, weariness, indolence, depression, anxiety, distraction, recollection, contentment, shame, inconsistency, joy, agitation, stupor, arrogance, despair, impatience, sleep, epilepsy, dreaming, wakening, indignation, dissimulation, cruelty, assurance, sickness, insanity, death, fright, and deliberation. These are defined by their names. These are the 8 sattvika states. Paralysis, perspiration, horripilation, change of voice, trembling, change of color, weeping, fainting are the 8 sattvika states. The 4 kinds of histrionic representation are gestures, word, dresses, and makeup, and the representation of the sattva. Practices of the representations in dramatic performance is twofold: realistic and conventional. And the verbal, the grand, the graceful, and the energetic are the 4 styles. Avanti, Dakshinyata, Advanti, Dakshinyatya, Odramgadi, and Panchalamdamya are the 4 local usages in dramatic performance. The success in the dramatic performance is of 2 kinds, divine and human. And the musical notes such as Saja, Vishalva are 7 and in number, and they fall into 2 groups, human and instrumental. The musical instruments are of 4 kinds: stringed, covered, solid, and hollow. Among these, the stringed means instruments are strings, the covered mean a drum, the solid a cymbal, and the hollow a flute. Songs which relate to dhruvas are of 5 kinds: entering, casual, going out, pleasing, and intermediate. And the playhouses are 3 types: oblong, square, and triangle. In this connection, I shall first of all explain the sentiments. No poetic meanings proceed from the speech, or any kind of sentiment. Now the sentiment is produced from the combination of determinants, consequents, and complementary states. Is there any instance parallel to it? Yes. It is said that, as taste results from a combination of various spices, vegetables, and other articles, and as 6 tastes are produced by articles such as raw sugar, or spices, or vegetables, so the durable psychological state, when they come together with various other psychological states, attain the quality of sentiment. Now one inquires, what is the meaning of the word rasa? It is said in reply that rasa is so called because it is capable of being tasted. How is rasa tasted? In reply, it is said that it is Just as well-disposed persons, while eating food cooked with many kinds of spice, enjoy its taste and attain pleasure and satisfaction, so the cultured people will taste the durable psychological states, and while they see them represented as an expression of the various psychological states with the word, gesture, and sattva, and derive pleasure and satisfaction. Thus is explained the memorial verse ending with Tasman Natrasa iti. For this connection, there are two traditional couplets. Just as the connoisseur of cooked food, while eating food which has been prepared from various spices and other articles, taste it, so the learned people taste in their heart the durable psychological states, when they are represented by an expression of psychological states with gestures. Hence, the durable psychological state in drama is called sentiments. Now, one inquires, do the psychological states come from the sentiments, or do the sentiments come out of the psychological state? On this point, some are of the opinion that they arise out of mutual contact, but this is not so. Why? It is apparent that the sentiments arise from psychological states and not psychological states from sentiment. For, on this point, there are traditional couplets such as psychological states are so called by experts in drama, for they make one feel the sentiments in connection with various modes of dramatic representations. Just as by many articles of various kinds, auxiliary cooked eatable, is brought forth, so the psychological states, along with different kinds of histrionic representations, will cause the sentiments to be felt. There can be no sentiment prior without the psychological states, and no psychological states without the sentiments following it, and during the histrionic representation they result from their interaction. Just as the combination of auxiliary cooked eatables and rice impart goods on the food in totality, so the psychological state and the sentiments cause one to manifest themselves. Just as trees grow from a seed and flowers and fruits from a tree, the sentiments are the source of all psychological states, and likewise psychological states exist as the source of all sentiments. Now I shall describe the origin, color, and Poseidon deities and examples of these sentiments. Sources of these 8 sentiments are the 4 original sentiments, erotic, furious, and odious. The comic sentiments arises from the erotic, the pathetic from the furious, the marvelous from the heroic, and the terrible from the odious. The mimicry of the erotic sentiment is called the comic, and the result of the furious sentiment is called the pathetic. The result of the heroic sentiment is called the marvelous, and that which is odious to see results in the terrible. The erotic sentiment is light green, the comic sentiment is white, the pathetic sentiment is grey. The furious sentiment is red, the heroic sentiment yellowish, the terrible sentiment black, the odious blue, and the marvelous yellow. Vishnu is the god of the erotic, Pramatha is the comic, Rudra the furious, Yama the pathetic, Mahakala the odious, Kala of the terrible, Indra of the heroic, Brahma of the marvelous sentiment. Thus have been described the origin, color, and deities of the sentiments. Now we will explain the determinants, the consequence, and the complementary psychological states, and their combination, definition, and example. We shall now enumerate the durable psychological states in different sentiments. Of these, the erotic sentiment proceeds from the durable psychological state of love, while it has its basis a bright attire, for whatever this world is, white, pure, bright, and beautiful, is appreciated in terms of the durable psychological state of love. For example, one who is elegantly dressed is called a lovely person. Just as persons are named after the profession of their father, mother, or family in accordance with the traditional authority, so the sentiments of the psychological states and other objects connected with drama are given names in pursuance of the practice and traditional authority. Hence, the erotic sentiment has been so named on account of it usually being associated with bright and elegant attire. It owes its origin to men and women and relates to the fullness of youth. It has 2 bases, union and separation. Of these 2, erotic sentiment in union arises from determinants like the pleasure of the seasons, the enjoyment of garlands, unguents, ornaments, the company of beloved persons, the objects of senses, splendid mansions, going to a garden and enjoying oneself there, seeing the beloved one, hearing his or her words, playing and dallying with him or her. It should be represented on the stage of consequence, such as the clever movement of eyes, eyebrow glances, soft and delicate movements of limbs, and sweet words, similar other things. Complementary psychological states do not include fear, indolence, cruelty, and disgust. The erotic sentiment in separation should be represented on the stage by consequence, such as indifference, languor, fear, jealousy, fatigue, anxiety, yearning, drowsiness, sleep, dreaming, awakening, illness, insanity, epilepsy, inactivity, fainting, death, or other conditions. Now, it has been asked, if the erotic sentiment has its origins in love, why does it manifest itself through pathetic conditions? In reply to this, it is said, it is mentioned before the erotic sentiment has its basis in union as well as separation. Authorities on Ars Amatoria have mentioned 10 conditions of the persons separated from their beloved ones, which are pathetic. We shall discuss them in chapter 1, in the chapter on the harmonious histrionic representations. The pathetic sentiment relates to a condition of despair owing to the affliction under a curse, separation from dear ones, loss of wealth, death, or captivity, while the erotic sentiment is based on separation to a condition of retaining optimism, arising out of yearning and anxiety. Thus, pathetic condition available in all other sentiments. And the sentiment called erotic is generally happy, connected with desired objects, enjoyment of the seasons, gardens, and similar other things, and is related to the union of man and woman. There are besides 2 arias which relate to the preceding sutra. The erotic sentiment arises from the connection to the favorable seasons, gardens, ornaments, enjoyment in the company of beloved ones, music, and poetry, and going to the gardens and roaming there. It should be represented on stage by means of composure of the eyes and face, sweet and smiling words, satisfaction, delight, and graceful movement of limbs. Now, the comic has its basis in the durable psychological state of laughter. This is created by determinants such as showing unseemly dress or ornament, imprudence, greediness, quarrel, defective limb, use of irrelevant words, mentioning of different faults, and other similar kinds of things. This is to be represented on stage by consequences such as rubbing of the lips, the nose and cheek, opening the eyes wide or contracting them, perspiration, color of the face, taking hold of the sides, complementary psychological states, which are indolence, dissemination, drowsiness, sleepiness, insomnia, envy, and the like. This sentiment is of 2 kinds, self-centered and centered on others. When a person himself laughs, it relates to the self-centered, but when he makes others laugh, it is sentiment in others. There are 2 traditional arias here, as one laughs with an exhibit of oddly placed ornaments, uncouth behavior, words and dress, and strange movement of limbs. It is called the comic sentiment. As this makes other persons laugh by means of his uncouth behavior, words, movement of limbs, and strange dress, it is known as the comic sentiment. This sentiment is mostly to be seen in women and men of the inferior type. There are 6 varieties which I shall speak presently. They are slight smile, smile, gentle laughter, laughter of ridicule, vulgar laughter, excessive laughter, and excessive laughter. 2 by 2, they belong respectively to the superior and middling and the inferior types of persons. To persons of superior type belong the slight smile and the smile. To those of the middling type, the gentle laughter and the laughter of ridicule. Those of the inferior type, the vulgar laughter and the excessive laughter. These are the shlokas on the subject. The sly smile of the people of the superior type should be characterized by slightly blown cheeks and elegant glances, and in it teeth should not be made visible. Their smile should be distinguished by blooming eyes, face, and cheeks, and its teeth should be slightly visible. Gentle laughter should have slight sound and sweetness, and should be suitable to the occasion. And its eyes and cheeks should be contracted, and the face joyful. During the laughter of ridicule, the nose is to be expanded, eyes should be squinted, and the shoulder and the head should be bent. The laughter on the occasion not suitable to it, the laughter with tears in one's eyes, or if the shoulder of the head violently shaken, is called vulgar laughter. The excessive laughter is that with which the eyes are expanded and tearful sounds is loud and excessive, and the eyes are covered by hands. Comic situations which may arise in the play for persons of superior, middling, or inferior types are thus to be given the expression to. This comic sentiment is of two kinds, self-centered and centered on others. It relates to three types of person, superior, middling, and inferior, and thus on the whole 6 varieties. Now the pathetic sentiment arises from the durable psychological state of sorrow. It grows from the determinants such as affliction under a curse, separation from dear ones, loss of wealth, death and captivity, flight accidents, or any other misfortune. This should be represented on stage by a consequence such as shedding tears, lamentation, dryness of mouth, change of color, drooping limbs, being out of breath, loss of memory, and the like. Complementary psychological states connected with these are indifference, languor, anxiety, yearning, excitement, delusion, fainting, sadness, dejection, illness, inactivity, insanity, epilepsy, fear, indolence, death, paralysis, tremor, change of color, weeping, loss of voice, and the like. On this point, there are 2 aryas. The pathetic sentiment arises from seeing the death of beloved persons or from hearing something very unpleasant, and these are its determinants. It is to be represented on the stage of consequence, like weeping loudly, fainting, lamenting, bewailing, exerting one's body, or striking it. Now, the furious sentiment has its basis on the durable psychological state of anger. It owes its origins to Rakshasas, Danavas, and haughty men, and is caused by fights. This is created by the determinants, such as anger, rape, abuse, insult, untrue allegation, exercising, threatening, revengefulness, jealousy, and the like. And its actions are to be beaten, breaking, crushing, fighting, drawing blood, and similar other deeds. This is to be represented on the stage by means of consequence such as red eyes, knitting of eyebrows, defiance, biting of the lips, movements of the cheeks, pressing one hand with the other, and the like. Complementary psychological states in it are presence of mind, determination, energy, indignation, restlessness, fury, perspiration, trembling, horripilation, choking of the voice, and the like. Now one inquires, it is to be assumed from the above statement about Rakshasas that they only give rise to the furious sentiment, and that this sentiment does not relate to others. The reply, however, is no. In case of others too, this sentiment may arise, but in the case of Rakshasas, it is to be understood as their special function. They are naturally furious, for they have many arms, many mouths, standing and unkempt hair of brown color, and prodigious physical frame of black complexion. Whatever they attempt, be it speech, movement of limbs, or any other effort, is by nature furious. Even in their love-making, they are violent. It is to be easily inferred that persons who imitate them give rise to the furious sentiment from their fights and battles. On these points, there are 2 aryas. The furious sentiment is created by striking, cutting, mutilation, and piercing in fights, and tumult of the battle and the like. It should be represented on stage by special acts, such as the release of many missiles, cutting off the head, the trunk, and the arms. Such is the furious sentiment viewed by experts. In its full conflict of arms, and in other words, movement and deeds, terrible and fearful. Now the heroic sentiment relates to the superior types of person and has energy as its basis. This is created by determinants such as the presence of mind, perseverance, diplomacy, discipline, military strength, aggressiveness, reputation of mind, influence, and the like. It is to be represented on stage by consequence such as firmness, patience, heroism, charity, diplomacy, and the like. Complementary psychological states in it are contentment, judgment, pride, agitation, energy, determination of purpose, indignation, remembrance, horripilation, and the like. There are 2 aryas on these points. The heroic sentiment gives rise from energy, perseverance, optimism, presence of surprise, and presence of mind, such as other special conditions of the spirit. The heroic sentiment is to be properly represented on stage by firmness, patience, heroism, pride, aggressiveness, influence, and censoring words. Now, the terrible sentiment has its basis in the durable psychological state of fear. This is created by determinants like hideous noise, sight of ghosts, panic, anxiety due to untimely cry of jackals and owls, staying in an empty house in the forest, sight of death, or captivity of dear ones, or news of it, or discussion about it. It is to be represented on the stage of consequence such as trembling of the hands and feet, horripilation, change of color, loss of voice. Its complementary psychological states are paralysis, perspiration, choking, voice, horripilation, trembling of the voice, change of color, fear, stupefaction, dejection, agitation, restlessness, and inactivity, fear, epilepsy, death, and the like. On these points, there are two traditional arias. The traditional sentiment is created by hideous noise, sight of ghosts, battle, entering an empty house or forest, offending one's superior or the king. Terror is characterized by the looseness of limbs, mouth and eyes, paralysis of the thighs, looking around with uneasiness, dryness of the drooping mouth, palpitation of the heart, and horripilation. This is the characteristics of natural fear. The artificially shown fear should be represented by these conditions, but in case of feigned fear, all efforts for representation should be milder. The terrible sentiment should always terrible sentiment should always represented by tremor of hands and feet, paralysis, shaking of the body, palpitation of the heart, dryness of the lip, the mouth, and the palate of the throat. Now, the odious sentiment has its basis in the durable psychological state of disgust. It is created by determinants such as the hearing of unpleasant, offensive, impure, and harmful things, or seeing them discussing them. It is presented on the stage by consequences such as stopping movement of the limbs, narrowing of the mouth, vomiting, spitting, shaking limbs in disgust, and the like. The complementary psychological states are epileptic fit, delusion, agitation, fainting, sickness, death, and the like. On these points, there are two traditional arias. Odious sentiment arises in many ways from disgusting sights, taste, smell, touch, and sound which cause uneasiness. This is to be represented on the stage by narrowing down the mouth and the eyes, covering the nose, bending down the head, and walking imperceptibly. The marvelous sentiment has as its basis the durable psychological state of astonishment. It is created by determinants such as sight of the heavenly beings or events, attainment of desired objects, entry into a superior mansion, temple, audience hall, and 7-storied palace, and seeing illusory and magical acts. It is represented on the stage by consequences such as wide opening of eyes, looking with fixed gaze, horripilation, tears of joy, perspiration, joy, uttering words of approbation, making gifts, crying incessantly, waving the end of a dhoti or sari, and movement of the fingers and the like. Complementary psychological states in it are weeping, paralysis, perspiration, choking, horripilation, agitation, inactivity, death, and the like. On this point, there are two traditional arias. The marvelous sentiment is that which arises from words, character, deed, and personal beauty. It is to be represented on the stage by a gesture of feeling sweet smell, joyful shaking of limbs, and uttering ha 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 sounds, speaking words of approbation, tremor, choking, voice, perspiration, and the like. The erotic sentiment of three kinds, viz. Of words, stress, and action, and the comic and terrible sentiments are likewise of three kinds, limbs, dress, and words. The pathetic sentiment of three kinds, that arises from obstruction of lawful deeds, from loss of wealth, from bereavement. The heroic sentiment is likewise of three kinds, from making gifts, from fulfilling one's duty, and from fighting one's enemies. The terrible sentiment is also of three kinds, feigned fear, fear from wrong action, and fear from the apprehension of dangers. The odious sentiment is of three kinds, nauseating, simple, and exciting. Of these, the sentiment from sight of stool and worms is nauseating, and the sight of blood and similar objects is exciting. The marvelous sentiment is of two kinds, celestial and joyous. Of these, celestial is due to seeing heavenly sights, and joyous is due to joyful happenings. These are the sentiments and their definitions. I shall hereafter speak of the characteristics of the psychological states. Adherence chapter 6 of Brata Natya Shastras, which treats the sentiments. And this is the end of our stream. It has been an hour. As is usual for these streams, I will be ending the stream without any raid. So I hope you all had a lot of fun. I'll see you this evening for the rest of the Analects by Confucius. I will now disappear. Goodbye. Okay, yeah, it's over.